Cold Harbor allegedly will be one of the greatest moments in the history of this planet, according to Seth Milchick, but we still don't know what the hell it is. Today I'm going to go through some of the top fan theories and try to figure out what is Cold Harbor. I'm Real Slim Katie 25. Let's get into it. Now, I'm torn about being a part of this community online, because on one hand, there's nothing more exciting than watching a TV show like appointment television, ready to discuss, talking with people around me, what do you think is going to happen, what's going on. But on the other hand, for example, if I hadn't been a part of the online discourse and I wouldn't have known necessarily the twist for Woe's Hollow, that could have potentially been a lot more exciting for me. But one thing I think everybody can agree with is that Season 2, Episode 7, Chikai Bardo, was a fantastic episode of television. And everybody who's saying it's answered every question, I think is overstepping by quite a lot. I think Irving B. said it best, we don't know anything. We're just believing what the show wants us to believe. The show has been manipulating sense of time in this universe since it's begun. And I believe this TV show is much smarter than 90% of its viewership, and likely has some stuff in store that nobody has predicted. Just like Lumon is a few steps ahead of its innies, I think the showrunners are far ahead of us. So Cold Harbor, it's a file that Mark has been refining, and we know that these files have expiry dates. It's super important that he's working on it. We've seen it creep up throughout this season. It was at 67%, it was at 87%, it was at 93%, it's at 96%, and keeps getting stalled due to the shenanigans of Mark S. and the other innies trying to figure out with what Lumon is doing. The importance of this file has been stated over the course of the season. Milchick even saying that it's going to be one of the greatest achievements in the history of the planet. Now, this is the same company that also says it's shown us the world's tallest waterfall. I think Lumon is known quite for exaggerating, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're upplaying that to its employees, trying to make it bigger and more important, because obviously the work is mysterious and important. But from this last episode, we know this has to do with Gemma. Gemma has gone through every room on the testing floor, except for one. Now, it's important to note that some of these rooms are files like Tumwater, which are things that Dylan has completed. And although we have people refining data on our other refiners, Dylan, Irving, and Helly, Lumon was willing to sacrifice that data when they thought they were going to let Irving and Dylan go, and eventually did let Irving go. So I personally think the room of refiners that are looking at our innies and MDR are just another layer of testing to see if Severance works in a workplace function. To me, that makes a lot of sense, because no matter what kind of work that they're doing, what they're refining, obviously, if they want to market Severance for a wider audience outside of workplaces, there needs to be a fuck ton of research to back that up. It's already an incredibly divisive procedure. So without rock solid proof that this thing works, they have nothing. So on a large scale, what is the big points? I want to set that aside for a minute and talk about what the actual room might have in store for Gemma. Some people have talked about the actual room being drowning or suffocating, a reference to the line in Chikai Bardo where she talks about in a mudslide wanting to either suffocate or drown. Also an interesting reference, or rather tie-in, to how Helena was being drowned by Irving, and how Mark said he felt like he was choking on Gemma's ghost. It's interesting because all of the rooms seem to have things that she has talked about. In this last episode, there was a reference to how Gemma hates writing thank you cards. And I think the best running theory about the testing floor right now is that all of the testing rooms are seeing how well Severance works in small-scale interactions for everyday life, doing things that people don't want to do, like going to the dentist, going on bumpy airplanes, etc., etc. Obviously, Lumon is able to simulate some crazy things, like in the plane, but something like drowning in a room is harder to buy, because we do know that if an innie dies on the floor, then their body is deceased for the innie and the outie. Which, if that theory is true, if it is drowning, that would tie into what Maurer was saying about, well, you might, like, being very cagey, rather, about being able to see Mark, rather saying Mark will benefit from the work that you've been siring. But I feel like drowning would be a little too on the nose, because also how could you confirm or come back with data about, like, an innie experiencing death or a near-death experience? We already know that she can feel physical effects of what her innie, even severed into multiple different ways, is doing. And we know that Mark S. has to be the one to complete Cold Harbor. Someone mentioned that since memories have an expiry date, maybe that's why these files... Somebody mentioned that maybe these files have an expiry date because their memories will fade, and the further they get from the memories they're trying to refine, the harder it is or the less accurate the data is. Which goes into another popular fan theory, that the room Cold Harbor would be recreating Gemma's miscarriage. This would be brutal. This would be absolutely devastating. But part of me already thinks that maybe she's done that. Dr. Maurer says that your work is going to be able to heal Mark, as Kier has already healed pain away from you. which makes me think that the version of Gemma that we see enslaved on the Innies floor might not still have her full outie memories. Maybe she still doesn't have that anymore. Another interesting theory is that Cold Harbor will show her footage of Mark and Helly hooking up, heartbreak, using Severance as an anti-grief tool. This would be horrible. I mean, this would be awful to watch. I don't know if I want to watch that. But I also saw a rumor that Tremel Tillman smashed his fucking AirPod. But I also saw a rumor that Tremel Tillman smashed his laptop after watching the season finale, so it's possible. And I do think we'll know what Cold Harbor is at the end of season 2. Another theory is that Gemma will actually die in Cold Harbor. You/MyDogIsBetter on Reddit has a theory that Cold Harbor refers to harbor being a shelter or a storage area, your body becoming cold, ultimate death for Gemma's body. If this is the case, there's an inference that the revolving you're talking about is transferring memories and using the chip to transfer memories to a new human body, like the revolving that Egan was talking about. /Slabs and Dabsky also says on this same Reddit thread that there's in Westworld someplace called cold storage, where bodies and hosts are stored when they're not being used, which I also think is interesting. The idea that they could be able to transfer consciousness would, I guess, just be the singular and the plural. That makes sense to me. But I don't know why they would keep a body in storage if their idea is really trying to perfect this worker enslavement and trying to keep these people happy. Why wouldn't they just continue to use Gemma as a wellness counselor or for further testing? I do think one of the better theories is that Cold Harbor is Mark S. refining a memory of losing Gemma or losing the baby, and Cold Harbor is the ultimate test of can Gemma sever truly from grief, which is interesting because ultimately Mark being severed is testing the same thing on a broad scale. The only real solid evidence we have that Gemma won't die is that Maurer does claim that she will be released back to the Earth. But I would be an idiot to truly believe anything that Lumon or a Lumon employee says in the show to be fact. But I also don't believe they wouldn't do that unless they had completely severed her former memories that caused her trauma. I feel like a lot of people are on the same page about what MDR is refining is we're separating the data into categories of the 4 tempers, and ultimately all their testing is trying to see how we can tame the tempers, right? So only the outie is experiencing good, positive things. And I don't think they would send her back into the Earth unless she was fully tamed. Because why would you release a woman who's been enslaved for presumably at least a few years with those memories? Coming back to this idea of permanent severance. But I don't know. All I know is that this show is smarter than me. And I can't wait to see what it is. I think the end of season 2 will come to Mark finally being fully reintegrated, and I don't know if we'll see the fruits of labor with that until season 3. And if I know anything about the show, I do believe season 2 will leave us on a nice cliffhanger. We waited 3 years for this season. I think we'll be fine, but I believe we'll know what Cold Harbor is by the end of season 2. That's my prediction right here. Anyways, if you like this, I'll be covering Severance until the end of season 2, so please subscribe and come back for more videos next week. As soon as the new episode drops, you will find my review here. And if you like videos like this, me and my best friend Louie make videos all the time reviewing movies, pop culture, everything in between. So please give us a like, a subscription, everything helps. We're a small channel and we just appreciate everything you guys do. But anyways, please try to enjoy each of our videos equally and have a great day.